Good day. This is Robert Hunt, Superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools, and today I am joined by a special guest, Annie Scott, who's a junior at Chagrin Falls High School. Hi, Annie. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you surviving the digital world?
Yeah, so far.
Right. So a couple of things we want to talk about today, Annie. One of them will be it's a big week for us as we appreciate our staff and our teachers. And also want to get some insight from you maybe on how the digital learning environment is going. But before I jump into that, it is Teacher Appreciation Week nationally, and we're kind of trying to recognize not only our teachers, but all of our staff. Annie, think about the teachers that have really made a difference in your life. What are the characteristics of those folks? Like, what do they do that kind of separated them and really made a mark on you as a young person?
Um, I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me when I think of any teacher that's really impacted me is kind of like their willingness to be patient with me and help work out any problems I have, whether it be in the classroom or with a homework assignment. So I think patience is a big thing, and I've definitely come across many teachers with that characteristic. Um, Another thing that I appreciate about teachers is their enthusiasm for their topic or the subject that we're learning about, whatever project we're working on. I think it's a lot easier to get excited about learning if the teacher's excited about it. And I've come across so many teachers that have that enthusiasm, and it's just made me like a lot more interested and excited about learning as a student.
Yeah, so that passion about content, but also kind of appreciating who you are and being there to support you as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I asked you or challenged you to try to narrow that list down to two or three. So why don't you give me the names of the individuals that you'd like to give a shout out to here on Teacher Appreciation Week, and maybe tell us why you chose those folks. And I'm sure if I let you go on for hours here, you could probably give me 10 or 15, but I really put the challenge to narrow that number. So who made the list and why?
All right. So it was definitely hard for me to narrow it down, and I just picked three all high school teachers just because they're the most fresh in my memory. But the first one is Mr. Ritchie, and he was my very first teacher in high school, first period bio, freshman year. I remember just going in there completely terrified, and just like right off the bat, he was super passionate about bio. He was like very good working with all the students, and I immediately felt comfortable. I immediately felt like accepted into the high school environment, and that I think that set out my high school career on like a very good uh, trend, I guess. So that's the reason I picked Mr. Ritchie.
So being all tense and nervous, and that's kind of maybe, common, but what did he do specifically that helped you feel more comfortable?
Well, I just remember him walking into the classroom and just like greeting everybody with like a huge smile on his face. And we did I think it was the solar eclipse that day. So we did a fun non-bio related activity talking about the eclipse. And it was just a lighthearted thing to kind of ease my way into the high school experience. And then, of course, we got into bio the following day. But it was just a nice way to kind of take a deep breath and just get into it.
Awesome. All right. So big shout out to Mr. Ritchie. And who gets number two on the list, Annie?
All right, well, spot two is Mrs. Petit, because I've had her for 2 years now, last year in computer programming and this year in comp sci. And when I had her in computer programming, I was really nervous about being in a computer class. It was a little bit daunting of a subject, and I had never really been a big sciencey STEM person. But once I took that class, I just felt a lot more motivated and encouraged to kind of pursue that path. And I was also just like totally awed by her abilities to not only teach like such a difficult subject, but also do it with like such enthusiasm, and just the amount of work she puts in to making sure all of her students are on par with where they're supposed to be, especially for the AP tests, is just like amazing. So big shout out to her.
Yeah, she's one that comes up quite a bit, and I always wonder what's the magic recipe in her room. I mean, nationally, you look at, the trend of females in science and computer science is really low, and I'm looking at our numbers saying, what are you talking
Right.
about? Because
Crazy.
I've had a lot of people say that, even though they, were worried or scared, she found a way to kind of meet them where they were and move them forward, and that's been a pretty pervasive in what I've heard from students. That describes your experience as well.
Yes, exactly. Right on par with that.
Yeah, good, good. All right, and the magical number three. Who do you
All
got?
right. Well, number three would have to go to Dr. Beech. So I have also had her for 2 years in a row, and started out with AP Seminar last year. And I'm sure I was a little bit of a pain for her because I was in a class with one of my friends, and we were troublesome. But um, this year came around, and I took AP Research, and the only way I could take it was by doing an alpha period, which was bright and early, crack of dawn, 6:30 class. And not many teachers, I say, would be able to make a teenager excited about waking up early and going to school for an extra period in the day. But Dr. Beach really just, every morning I woke up, even though it was 5:30 in the morning, and I was just excited to go and work on my research project. And I think it's a big testament to her as a teacher, if she can make a group of teenagers excited about waking up and going in early. And not only that, but like I found to be very comforted by the fact that I could just go in there and work on my research project, and I just never felt out of place in her classroom, and I was always excited about going in. So that would have to be my number three spot.
Wow, and I didn't have anything to do with that, right, Annie? That's
No, no, I
good.
swear.
Good.
She
All
was on
right,
my list the whole time.
all right. Yeah. So, what's your research topic while we're talking about this?
So I'm researching whether or not the science of eugenics, which were like really prevalent in the 1920s, whether or not that could be like kind of influencing modern immigration policy, and whether or not there's like traces of it in the modern world.
Wow,
Yeah,
quite a class in terms of the depth, and just amazed at the things that students do there, and
right.
just hearing your topic alone just says so much about how much thought, reflection, and time has to go into truly understanding it. So shout out to you as well on that.
Thank you. Of
So those are three awesome teachers. I appreciate you sharing that.
course.
Before I let you go, I'd just like a student perspective on how this whole virtual learning thing is going. Maybe talk about some things you think are going pretty well, and maybe some of the challenges from your perspective.
So I'd say the biggest challenge is just kind of maintaining some sort of constant schedule, just because it's difficult to self-motivate to wake up at a reasonable time that I normally would, and B, just kind of maybe like space out my work for the week in kind of a orderly fashion. Um, so I know that those are definitely some difficulties, but I also think that the teachers are doing a really good job at kind of setting out the plans for the week, either the Sunday night or the Monday morning of that week. And so it's really nice because can kind of see what my assignments are and just kind of plan it out from there. And so I think that's really helpful, and I haven't really had any issues with missing assignments or miscommunication. So I think the teachers have been doing a really good job of that. Yeah, I think obviously it's not an ideal situation, but I'm impressed with how, at least from my side of it, how smoothly it's going. It's going a lot better than I had anticipated, I guess, despite some hiccups.
So you like that flexibility,
Yeah,
having kind of maybe the time to you manage your time. Tell me what I need to do, give me kind
right.
of when I need to have it done by, but I am in charge of when I get it done.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do you miss, or what's been challenging, or I don't think anyone says this is the new model for us. Can't wait, and this is how we're going to do it from this point forward. So, what are the pieces that you miss most?
Well, certainly I miss the face-to-face contact with like teachers and peers and stuff. Um, it's just very different, and like I said, it's kind of hard to find motivation, especially without that kind of outside, not necessarily pressure in a bad way, but that competition and um, that drive that I get from being surrounded by peers in a classroom environment. It's really different than kind of sitting at home doing individual work. So I definitely miss that kind of competition, almost motivation to just like keep pushing myself in the presence of teachers and peers.
So if you had the crystal ball or the magic wand to be superintendent for next year, when we go back to normal, if normal ever exists anymore,
Right.
is there something we should do that was part of this experience, or just get back to the way it was, Dr. Hunt?
Well, you know, obviously nobody can really predict what's going to happen. But if we had to incorporate anything of this, uh, I think the whole setting out the schedule for the week is really good. And if we had to be in a situation where maybe some days we would have to be online, I think it would be a good idea to maybe some parent, like perhaps if parents didn't want their kids at school, but some were okay with their kids being at school, maybe being like a half and half kind of environment. But again, it's definitely difficult. So
Yeah.
yeah, you've got your work cut out for you.
So you don't want the magic wand, is what you're saying, Annie?
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Uh, well, Annie, thank you so much. I mean, you're obviously a very mature, intellectual young lady, and offered some great insights for us today. I'm sure those teachers will be extremely happy to hear your kind words, and appreciate very much everything you're doing. And you stay safe and well at home, okay?
Thank you. You too. I appreciate everything you're doing.